Hello everybody, welcome to another heroic dungeon. We're doing the Culling of Stratholme today. Some of you will notice that I've cut out a portion of this dungeon. This dungeon starts with a sort of a role-play event to give you sort of a little primer to what's going on here in Stratholme. It's a story told in Warcraft 3, video game I encourage all of you guys to go play if you're interested in the background and the lore behind World of Warcraft. It really sort of sets Warcraft 3. The stories really set sort of the scene for what you'll experience in the first sort of three phases of World of Warcraft: Vanilla, the Burning Crusade, and Wrath of the Lich King. There are some threads that go beyond those games, but majority of the stories that are told sort of have a background in that RTS game. I also just think it's really fun. So anyway, we're here in Culling of Stratholme. The way that this first section of the dungeon works is you go back and forth through this section of the dungeon dealing with these waves of scourge mobs. You'll see them marked by little flags on the minimap if you ever get turned around and not sure where to go for the next one. You've also got a timer up here. This is to reach pretty much the end of the dungeon, and if you reach that end of the dungeon, there'll be an infinite dragon mob that you can kill that will give you a mount and also give you an extra badge. So early in the expansion, it's really recommended to try and hit that timer, just help you gear up a little bit faster. I don't think you would have much problems ever hitting it. I've done this dungeon a couple of times now on the beta, and I've never once had a group that could not make it. This is a pretty easy dungeon overall. I say that, and we'll probably have some trouble, but hopefully not. But yeah, this has proven to be a pretty easy dungeon. Most of the heroics in Wrath of the Lich King are much easier than any of the heroics that you've seen in the Burning Crusade. I'm healing on a Disciplined Priest today. I really like healing as a priest in this dungeon. You see all those skeletons I was just Holy Novaing. One Holy Nova is enough to clear those guys out, I found, which is really nice because they're not beating on you and just getting in your way, being annoying. Yep. So here comes the first boss, Meat Hook. I believe there are two bosses within these 10 waves. This fifth one and the 10th one is a boss. All of these bosses have proven to be really easy. I've not had any problems with any of these first couple bosses whatsoever. Yeah, Meat Hook will stun you there. Yep, throw those chains on you, but it's not really enough to... I mean, yeah, it hurts, but it's nothing dramatic, and you'll certainly have more than enough time to heal your group back up. And you see, I was bubbled going into it for my power word shield, and I didn't even really take much damage at all. So if you're not familiar with what's going on, you may have run Stratholme in vanilla or done it on, just retail or something like that, and you think to yourself, well, Stratholme should be on fire every time I've been in there. In this Caverns of Time dungeon, we're seeing Stratholme before it gets burned. Well, actually, I mean, we're here burning it, really. We're helping Arthas Menethil purge the city. The city's been infected by the undead. I'm going the wrong way here. It's been infected by the undead. They've sent in shipments of plagued grain that the townspeople have eaten, and that's been turning them into the undead. So Arthas' solution to that is to purge them and kill them all. Luckily, this is a paladin, so I think he'll have enough tools to keep himself alive before we get there. We'll throw a bubble on him as soon as we can. There we go. Don't even think we propped his... don't even think we procced his Ardent Defender. Speaks to the strength of the Protection Paladin. Yeah, anyway, so Arthas' solution to all these people stuck in this with this threat of undeath is to just kill them all, which maybe is merciful, maybe isn't. That's one of the moral dilemmas that you sort of see in Warcraft 3. It's Jaina and Uther don't agree with Arthas, and the reason we're back in time to address the issue is the Infinite Dragonflight are a sect of the Bronze Dragonflight, the dragons who deal with time. They're here to try and stop Arthas. They don't feel that he should be killing people, and they don't want him to inevitably turn into the Lich King and cause problems for the rest of Azeroth. Contrary to that, the Bronze Dragons feel it's their responsibility to ensure that time proceeds as it did originally, to make sure that the true timeline stays intact. So we're here to help them do that. An interesting quirk about that here is you get turned into a human if you're a non-human, dwarf, or I think gnome race. I believe you get turned into a human for this dungeon. So this character is actually a blood elf, but I appear as a human this time. I really love this dungeon. I think there's a lot of really cool details. The shop names, you'll recognize them from Stratholme, the one you ran in vanilla, if you look at the street signs and things like that. And it's just such an iconic dungeon to me. It's really cool to see what it looked like beforehand. And if you've played Warcraft 3, I mean, it's one of the more... I mean, I think there's a lot of really fun maps and missions in that game, but I think it's one of, at least to me, it's one of the more important ones, and certainly has a lot of large ramifications for Warcraft lore going forward. So that was wave 9, so this should be another boss. Yep.
Champion of Lordaeron, the dead shall have their day. The entertainment has arrived.
Throw our Shadow Fiend out here, get a little bit of more mana back. Not that I think we'll really need it. This guy summons ghouls and then explodes their corpses. So he'll summon ghouls, you'll kill the ghouls because they're attacking you, and if you stand on top of them, I believe the idea is he blows them up and deals damage to you. But you can pretty much just stand on top of them. If you even get to the point where he casts Corpse Explosion. A lot of these bosses die before you see all of their mechanics. That's definitely something that I think you'll notice if you are doing these dungeons. Well, we did see a Corpse Explosion there, but that was what that was. You'll notice we instantly loot our Emblems of Heroism, so unlike in Burning Crusade, where you gotta make sure you loot the bosses, you don't have to worry here. So now we're moving into sort of the second phase of the dungeon, which is a escort quest, really. You'll escort Arthas through the rest of the dungeon. There's an achievement tied to these risen zombies. If you kill 100 of them within a certain time period, you get an achievement. And I believe it's one of the... counts towards the meta achievement to get one of the drakes. One of the proto-drake mounts, that is. Alright, so
follow me. I know the way through.
We'll tell Arthas that we're ready to get going here. We're going to see something that didn't happen originally in the story. Oh, okay. Arthas really had to kill that zombie there.
You need something?
So as you see, these civilians were actually members of the Infinite Dragonflight, here to kill Arthas, but we'll keep him alive. You can heal Arthas as the healer in this dungeon. You know, I can bubble him, do whatever to him. I think I can even buff him. Let's see. Yep, if not that he needs the stats. I don't think he would fall into too much dismay unless you weren't tanking the mobs at all. But if things get a little hairy, if you have a really weak tank or something like that, you can heal Arthas back up.
More vile sorcery. Be ready for anything.
More infinite dragons here. Throw in a little DPS. Something I've said in other videos, I'd recommend making sure that you know, at least have some DPS spells bound as a healer. You're just going to run into these situations where there's not a whole lot for you to do, and you might as well throw out some damage. This next pull is something you
Let's move
just
on.
need to be aware of if you're going to tank this dungeon. Not that if you really did it wrong, I think your group would be in too much trouble, but mobs will spawn here and over here, so both ends of the doorway. So just be aware of that you're going to have to
Watch
pick
your
up
backs.
mobs
They have
in
us
front and
surrounded in
behind
this
you.
hole.
We're coming up on the next boss up here too. He'll be in this next room. This is probably, it is a longer dungeon. Most of the dungeons take you about 15 minutes if you're going at a quick pace, I've found here in Wrath of the Lich King. This one will take you a little
Mal'Ganis is
longer,
not making this easy.
but if you're going at a good pace, you'll get that extra badge. And that is 5 badges, I believe, for running this dungeon, which especially at the beginning of the expansion, you're probably going to want those extra
very
badges. So this is probably a good one to run if you're, already did your daily for your daily heroic for the day and are just looking to pick up more badges. This would be a good one. It's also just a personal favorite of mine. I just, like I was gushing about the lore earlier. I really love the lore of this dungeon and just find the aesthetic really cool.
May the light have mercy, for I will not.
All right, so we're gonna see the next boss come out here. Yep, this
What
guy
else can
here,
I put in my way?
Chrono Lord Epoch.
Prince Arthur's nymph, on this day a powerful darkness has taken hold of your soul. The death you are destined to visit upon others will this day end.
I do what I must for Lordaeron, and neither your words nor your actions will stop me.
This boss doesn't do a whole lot. He'll throw out a stun and he'll do some charges. Last time I did this, I stood pretty far out, and my group was all grouped up here, and he just kind of charged me and one-shot me. So I'm not entirely sure how that mechanic works or what the idea is. I'm gonna stand close this time and see if that does happen. But so yeah, there's that time stop. Not really very impactful to the fight, but there it is. And are we even going to see any charges? No, I don't think so. This hunter's putting out a lot of damage. Alright, we actually got to tell Arthas that we want to keep moving here.
This city will be cleansed. The quickest path to Mal'Ganis lies behind that bookshelf ahead. This will only take a moment. I'm relieved this secret passage still works.
I believe the voice actor of Arthas is a relatively famous voice actor. I know I've heard him in some other stuff. I think if you watch like the English dub of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I think he's Dio, which is cool.
I will not allow this plague here as quickly as possible. If the undead don't kill us, the fires might.
So the idea here is the fires have started. Stratholme is starting to burn, so we're moving forward through the burned areas. This is probably where the most damage is in the dungeon, but it's still not exactly a challenge, I wouldn't call it. Scroll of Agility there. Not as valuable as it would have been in Burning Crusade. I believe they don't stack with Horn of Winter. So I think all of the scrolls have like party buff equivalents that would overwrite them. So I don't think, assuming you've got a fully buffed 25-man raid, I don't think you'd ever need to buy scrolls. In a 10-man raid you might though, because there's a good chance you won't be able to get all the buffs you might want. So
Rest a moment and clear your lungs.
you may want to pick up a couple scrolls or something like that. Although it's hard to imagine a raid where you don't have at least one Death Knight. Although we don't have any Death Knights in this group right here. Paladins have been more common than Death Knights I've found on the beta.
Move again. Mal'Ganis awaits.
I expect we'll see plenty of Death Knights though. Alright, so we've made our way through this burning section. Now we're going to approach where that dragon is that I mentioned earlier, where you get the mount. This is also where the last boss is. If you turn right down here, you'll see Mal'Ganis will be down there.
Market Row has not caught fire yet.
But we're going to speed on ahead.
To be in Crusader Square, which is just ahead. Tell me when you're ready to move
right
forward.
here. Yep, so here it is up here. I don't think there's really any mechanics to this. I mean, there's damage that goes out. Looks like he does this corrupting blight, which is just a dot. You can't dispel it. It just sits there. But yeah, it's really just the challenge of getting here in time. Which I mean, we got 10 minutes left, and we're in mostly blue pre-made character gear. So I don't suspect you'd struggle too much at any point. Maybe if you're coming in here, like, I think you can get into these at, like, level 68. So maybe if you're coming in here, like, at that low level. But, yeah. You might have some troubles if you're trying to do that. But otherwise, I don't think you'd struggle. Hey, we got the Drake. I think you'll be able to get that pretty quick. I don't suspect... I mean, obviously... Everybody's got to get it first, but I would be surprised. As long as you're actually running this dungeon regularly, I think you'll get it pretty quick. And it won't exactly be a rare mount. All your mounts go into this tab here, which is really nice. You don't need to keep them in your inventory anymore, so you get to reclaim a little bag space.
Right now, Mal'Ganis. Just you and me.
This will be a fine test, Prince Arthas.
Mal'Ganis's spells here are kind of based on his spells from Warcraft 3 as a Dreadlord hero. He'll do a sleep. He'll throw out those that wave of green energy, and he's got this vampiric touch. I would dispel it, but he just puts it right back up. At least he did last time I ran the dungeon. Maybe that I assume that's intended, but I don't know. Maybe not. See, something dispelled it, and it went right back up. So. And that's the dungeon.
Has just begun.
We'll hear the roleplay here.
Gather your forces and meet me in the Arctic land of Northrend. It is there that we shall settle the score between us. It is there that your
I'll hunt you
true
to the ends of the
destiny
earth if I have to. Do you hear me? To the ends of the earth!
I think he's got a little more.
Performed well this day. Anything that Mal'Ganis has left behind is yours. Take it as your reward. I must now begin plans for an expedition to Northrend.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot for coming along. Have a good one.